about what fire can or can't do to a building, you tell them, you watch this video, and you tell me what those puffs of smoke are. There's no fire up in that corner. The video is not touched up. This is evidence suitable for a court of law, right from network television. Okay? Did I make my point? Is there molten metal, and why, found at the bottom of the World Trade Center? Let's listen to Mark Loiseau.
Mark Loiseau, the president of Controlled Demolition Incorporated, told the American Free Press that in the basements of the World Trade Center, where 47 central support columns connected to the bedrock, hot spots of literally molten steel were discovered more than a month after September 11th. These incredibly hot areas were found at the bottoms of the elevator shafts, down 7 basement levels. The molten steel was found 3, 4, and 5 weeks later when the rubble was being removed. He said that molten steel was also found at World Trade Center 7. The highest temperature was in the east corner of the South Tower, where a temperature of 1,377 degrees Fahrenheit was recorded. The molten steel in the basement was more than double that temperature.
And the reason is because the molten steel is down in the basement. Those were surface temperatures that NASA was reading. Now, up here, B and A, that's building 7. Those temperatures are 1,340 degrees on the surface. Any fire is probably at most about 1,300 to 1,400 degrees in the building. These are surface temperatures. Remember, that pile of building was about 7 or 8 stories tall. The surface temperature is coming through the pile 1,300 degrees. That's why below the temperature must have been even much greater. There's plenty of evidence for molten metal. In fact, the fires get to be 1,200, 1,400, sometimes 1,800 degrees hydrocarbon fires. And by the way, that includes jet fuel fires. But molten metal, well, the salmon you see in this color is 1,500 degrees. The lemon color is 1,800 degrees, much hotter than a hydrocarbon fire can burn. Structural steel doesn't even begin to melt until 2,700 degrees. What produced this molten metal? NIST denies molten metal. FEMA denies that there's any molten metal. You're going to see more evidence of molten metal. Thermite produces molten metal at 4,500 degrees. What is thermite? We're going to find out. It's an incendiary cutting charge, which we've found evidence at all 3 buildings we'll be seeing. This is previous molten metal which is solidified. It's rust. It's not aluminum from any airplane. And aluminum doesn't rust. They call these meteorites. They found them all over the place, tons of this previously solidified.
Unusual artifacts to emerge from the rubble is this rock-like object that has come to be known as the meteorite.
This fused element of steel, molten steel and concrete and all of these things all fused by the heat into one single element.
Do we have foreknowledge of the collapse in Building 7? Well, what does Chief Nick Visconti say of the New York Fire Department? We're moving the command post over this way. That building's coming down. They knew it was coming down. Now, never before in history has a steel frame high-rise building come down due to fire. Firemen don't shriek from their responsibility to go into a high-rise and put it out. Our codes protect buildings quite well, and they've never come down before. But all of a sudden, on this day, they're saying the building's going to collapse. Indira Singh, EMT, by noon, 1 o'clock, they told us we had to move from that triage site up to Pace University a little farther away because Building 7 was going to come down or being brought down. Is that what they said? Yeah. They said we're going to have to bring it down. Let's see what these police and these unusual workers have to say caught on this CNN tape.
Keep your eye on that building. It'll be coming down.
Building is about to blow up. Move it back.
All right, guys.
We are walking back. There's a building about to blow up. Flame, debris coming down.
Now we're told that the building's going to blow up. It's not just coming down, so we're getting a little closer toward the truth. These policemen were obviously told. Not only that, BBC announces the collapse of Building 7 20 minutes before it happened. Here is Jane Stanley announcing. It says, the 47-story Salomon Brothers building close to the World Trade Center has also collapsed. Well, there's the building right behind her. It has not collapsed. Do these people go by a script, or are they doing real-time reporting? What is the issue here? Well, they're being fed information, and I'm going to encourage you to ask Barry Zwicker a lot of questions about this. Who was in the building? Well, we have the CIA, the IRS, the Department of Defense, Securities and Exchange Commission, which, by the way, lost thousands of files related to hundreds of active cases against Wall Street companies such as Enron and WorldCom. Could Al-Qaeda have gotten into this building to plant the explosives? It's a simple question. It deserves a thoughtful answer. So, what have we shown in Building 7? Well, we've shown direct evidence of explosives because we have sights and sounds produced by explosions with the eyewitnesses you've seen, a rapid onset of the destruction at the base, the clap of thunder, and the building coming down, those huge dust clouds billowing, enormous, from the pulverized concrete, the cutter charges or pools of molten iron from thermite, and we're going to be proving later that this is from thermite. Squibs, or explosive charges, visible at the upper 7 stories on the right side of Building 7. Deal with it. Demolition waves, removing the column support simultaneously all around the building, floor by floor, synchronistically timed. And a total collapse of the steel skeleton broken up and ready for shipment. All of that producing a straight down symmetrical collapse into its own footprint, free fall speed, virtually. No resistance from the columns. We have no typical characteristics of fire with large deformations creeping from place to place and slow deformations or asymmetrical collapse as we see in fires. We have government documentation which shows that they have no hypothesis that they value themselves, FEMA. We have expert corroboration from one controlled demolition expert, the top in Europe. We have foreknowledge of the collapse, that it's going to blow up, that they're moving the command center away, they're moving people back like 7 blocks. And of course, we have plenty of video documentation which you've seen, all of which goes to support the hypothesis of controlled demolition. Now, no building exhibiting all the characteristics of controlled demolition has never not been a controlled demolition. Let's take a look at the Twin Towers. Because the evidence, as great as it was for Building 7, is far greater for the Twin Towers. This was the crowning achievement of the international style, according to some, moronic gigantism, according to others, and heartless modernism. However you feel about the buildings, let's take a close look at how they were destroyed. These buildings surpassed the tallest building in the world at the time, becoming 1,368 feet high with a 12.5-foot floor-to-floor height. There were structural innovations which I'll show you in this unique building, 208 feet square, which allowed a complete open plan. 60 feet span in this direction and 35-foot span in this direction. All high-rises after this time followed this innovation. It was actually quite incredible, and it worked quite well. We'll take a look.